Welcome to Lecture 9. I've entitled this one, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Temptation and Responsibility. We're going to be looking at Fit 3 and 4 for the lecture today, beginning on page 209. And if you're simply using another translation, this will begin around line 1127. When we ended last time, the idea that Gawain was going to exchange with the Green Knight his winnings at the castle while the knight went out in his hunting, and they would exchange at the end of the day, was set up by a toast. Fit 3 of the poem follows a literary envelope. That means we're going to have the equivalent of a meanwhile back at the ranch. We're going to start off with a bedroom scene, go to a hunting scene, and then go back to the bedroom scene. So we're going to get this kind of contrast going back and forth. We start with the hunt, then we go to the bedroom scene, back to the hunt. So we've got this kind of encapsulation. On the first day's hunt, the knight goes in quest of the deer. The second day, the boar. The third day, the fox. There are, of course, traditional associations in terms of medieval ideas about particular animals. The innocence of the deer, the fierceness of the boar, and, of course, the sly and cleverness, almost in a kind of devilish sense, of the fox. We'll think about in class, and you can think about this before we get to class. Who is the deer? Is it the lady of the castle, or is it Sir Gawain? Is the boar Sir Gawain or the lady of the castle? Is the fox the lady of the castle or Gawain? It's clever because in the first one we may want to associate Gawain more with the deer. Deer are very sure-footed and they're very fast. What goes on here is probably very surprising to Gawain. First of all, our hunt begins for the deer, and then we're into the bedroom scene. By the way, medieval castles would have had small areas. Typically when people talked about bedrooms in Middle Ages, they were basically talking about the place literally where the bed was. Any kind of closet or something like that. We use the term closet now. That was actually a space off the area where the bed was, where essentially you entertained friends. Then when you got tired, you simply opened the door and went to bed. So, in essence, the bedroom itself was a very, very private area, typically not to be violated in that sense. So, early in the morning, Gawain is rather surprised when the lady comes in. And the words of exchange they have are kind of interesting because the metaphor being used around line 1208 on page 211 is the metaphor of the hunt itself and also the emblems of warfare and capture. "Good morning, Sir Gawain," said the gracious lady. "Your sleep so soundly one might sidle in here. You're tricked and trapped. But let's make a truce, or I'll bind you in your bed, and you'd better believe me." The lady laughed, making light of his quandary. "Good morning, madam," Gawain said merrily. "I'll contentedly attend whatever task you set, and in serving your desire, I shall seek your mercy, which seems my best plan in the circumstances." And he loaded his light-hearted words with laughter. "But, gracious lady, if you grant me leave, will you pardon your prisoner and prompt him to rise? Then I'll quit these covers and pull on my clothes, and our words will flow more freely back and forth." Probably it is the case, from what we know about medieval people and their sleeping habits, he's probably in the buff here. So needless to say, he is in a compromising situation being taken this way. So he obviously would prefer to have communications with this unusual lady whom he has just met the day before and after all, the knight's wife, in a little bit more attired state than he currently is. One of the things that we'll look at in class is the words themselves are very seductive if you read them that way. At times it looks like that, in fact, I think you'd have to have help to miss it, maybe even the help of an English professor, that the temptation here is to sexual activity between the two. But Gawain can't acknowledge that those are the words that are said, and of course certainly he is not going to fall victim to the temptation itself, and he doesn't in each one of the quests. Each one of the quests, the language becomes all the more intriguing because it becomes more pointed. 2, the second day's hunt, beginning around line 1402 on page 215, the hunt for the boar. The boar is a fiercer animal, and indeed the boar almost kills the hounds, bites their backs in fact, in the middle of the hunt itself, before one lone flight of a spear kills the boar. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we have another exchange between Gawain and the lady. Again, he's got to respond in a courteous way to her, which first of all will not acknowledge what she has said, because then she could say, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way. You took it that way. Wait till my husband gets home." But he's going to have to think of a skillful way, and he's beginning to wonder too, because after all, he cannot be both courteous to her and what she wants. Remember, he's literally supposed to resign his will over to her and also be courteous to the host. So we've got courtesy on trial here. Now you can see perhaps why this poem winds up in a manuscript with other religious poems, because this is essentially where the rubber meets the road in terms of ethics. The others are in many ways religious stories based, 2 of them anyway, on biblical stories. This is essentially, if you're put in this situation, what would you do to preserve your own honor, while at the same time acknowledging your own strength and possibilities. The third day's hunt happens, and this is page 221, and it begins around line 1690. The third day's hunt, as the knight says at line 1680, "But tomorrow will be the best." And indeed it is. The lady comes in on the third day, and she is even more seductive to Sir Gawain, and she's very offended that he has not accepted her advances if he doesn't have a lady. Now, if she has a lady, then there may be a reason why that could possibly be the case, because he would have allegiances to her. Well, I don't have a lady. Well, why don't you give me one of your gloves? I didn't bring any extras. Well, let me give you a ring. No, I can't take your ring. Then let me give you a sash. Ah, that sash has magic properties that will protect him from being beheaded. So, as foxes do in their hunt, by throwing the dogs off course, running in kind of zigzag patterns, you've got this back and forth, glove, ring, sash. I can't take it. No, I don't have any extras. This sort of back and forth that eventually resolves that Gawain sees the possibility that this sash may protect him. Because after all, the Green Knight may have picked up his head. He knows that he won't be able to do that. In Fit 4, we move to the day of trial at the Green Chapel. I have a friend who teaches English at Eastern Kentucky University and has just written a book on green chapels. These are natural spaces that probably actually go back to pre-Christian times in England. They're actually hollowed out places in the earth where people may have sort of met for some kind of public worship. So a green chapel is literally a kind of archaeological space. He meets the Green Knight, and he receives 3 chops. The first one, he shies away, and the knight rebukes him for his cowardice. The second, the knight purposefully misses. On the third swing, he nicks his neck a little bit. Gawain, recognizing that he has survived the great tournament here of testing, picks up his helmet and puts it back on his head because he's had the 3 chops and he knows that he has survived. Well, it's not quite that simple because we now know that that Green Knight who he saw a year ago at Camelot and the Knight of the Green Chapel here are the same as the knight at the castle, who was not wearing green at that point. We also learned that that mysterious lady who leads around others by the left hand, which is of course an interesting sign for the medieval world, as I stand here being a lefty. That he has been the victim of a joke played out. But something has happened. Bersilac gives us his reading of this scene. In fact, we're going to get 3 different interpretations. When we were looking at literature of the Old English period, we were pretty clear we couldn't see Grendel as anything other than evil. The potential for seeing anything, a different kind of reading, simply wasn't there. The poet didn't give us that. The Gawain poet, an anonymous poet, gives us 3 possibilities. We can accept Bersilac's reading of the situation, we can accept Gawain's reading of the situation, or the court's reading of the situation when he gets back to Camelot. They all see this exchange of the sash and the experience in different ways. Let's look at line 1389 first. This is Bersilac's reading, the name of the Green Knight. Page 235. The Green Lord laughed and leniently replied, "The harm which you caused me is wholly healed. By confessing your failings, you are free from fault, and have openly paid penance at the point of my axe. I declare you purged, as polished and as pure as the day you were born, without blemish or blame. And this gold-hemmed girdle I present as a gift, which in the green, like my gown. It's yours, Sir Gawain, with princes and kings, and this keepsake will be proof to all chivalrous knights of your challenge in the chapel. But follow me home. New Year's far from finished. We'll resume our reveling with supper and song. And then, of course, you can see your aunt, Morgan Le Fay. Well, Gawain is in no mood for that. But notice what Bersilac has said here. You have now confessed what you've done, and the experience itself has provided a kind of cleansing ritual. And you are as pure now as the day you were born. Interesting. Well, that's not Gawain's reading of the situation. Let's look at line 2505 on 237. When he arrives back at Camelot, "Regard," said Gawain, as he held up the girdle. By the way, the translation here uses girdle. Think of sash. This is merely a sash. "The symbol of sin for which my neck bears the scar, a sign of my fault and offense and failure, of the cowardice and coveting I came to commit. I was tainted by untruth." Remember that he is under the token of truth, as a knight of truth. "I was tainted by untruth. This its token I will drape across my chest till the day I die. For man's crimes can be covered but never made clean. Once sin is entwined, it is attached for all time." That's an interesting description. Do keep in mind that we are in a medieval Christian world, and the notion that confession and absolution could undo one's sin were very much a part of medieval theological and religious practice. Gawain here says, once you've messed up once, there's no way to go back and atone for it. And he's going to wear this as a sign of his loss. And he describes it both in terms of cowardice and coveting. We can think a while about what cowardice might be. Of course, certainly, he's trying to protect his life. We expect that. That's to be human. But coveting, what's he coveting? Is he coveting the Green Knight's wife? He didn't know it was the Green Knight at that point. Bersalac's wife? Is he coveting his own life? What might he be coveting? That he defines it in such religious terms with covetousness suggests that he sees this in a very religious sort of way. That's not the way that Arthur's court's going to see it. The king gave comfort. Then the whole of the court allowed, as they laughed in lovely accord, that the lords and ladies who belonged to the table, each knight of the brotherhood, should bear such a belt, a bright green belt worn obliquely to the body, crosswise, like a sash, for the sake of this man. So that slanted green stripe was adopted as their sign, and each knight who held it was honored forever, as all the best books of romance remind us. I'll stop there. So think about this. You are Gawain, something that you associate directly with tremendous loss. You know, you've messed up. They're taking to be a sign to remember you, to honor you. Clearly, their system of values is very different. Morgan Le Fay had thought that Arthur's court was too proud. You have to wonder. We saw pride in Beowulf too, and pride in Beowulf was that thing which blinded an individual in terms of the ability to make moral choices. In this one, you have to wonder. They want the sash. I've sometimes said in class, they want it as a kind of fashion statement that they're going to wear. Whatever it is, this is not the world that Gawain wants. He wants it to be a sign of his failure, and he's going to wear it as long as he lives. And he's going to look at it, and it's going to remind him. He's going to contemplate it. He's going to remind him of his loss. Or is it Bersalac who says, yeah, you made a mistake. We all do. You've confessed it. Things are right now. We're squared away. Which is right? We are at the beginning of the year. We're still during the Christmas season. If one reads it in terms of medieval religious thought, clearly Bersalac's idea has the greatest possibility, because forgiveness is one of those ideas that is typically held out as a part of the Christian religion, as understood by the medieval world, for those who confess their faults. Whatever it is, we are allowed to select the right answer as readers. You choose. You choose. Enjoy the poem.